I want to say thank you to all the extras, because this is the first event we've ever done. We've been doing these for about 2 years now, and this is the first one we've actually had sponsorship. So they are providing all your beer, all your popcorn, helped us license the film for tonight, which costs quite a bit of money, and also to Google Campus as well for hosting us. But all the extras have been fantastic the whole way through. We only met them like about a couple of months ago, just before Christmas, and they got a really nice kind of headquarters just outside London, and they're looking for developers and stuff. So if you're interested, go and take a look. So we've got our panel here tonight. Can everyone hear me all right, by the way? Yeah. Cool. 3 people who we've kind of corralled. There was supposed to be Tracy from the Future Lab. She couldn't come here tonight. She had a late kind of client meeting land, so we've got a replacement. So I'm going to let these guys kind of introduce themselves, starting with Joseph here. Just say what you do, why you're here, and what you know about the internet. In your best Werner Herzog voice.
Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. So I'm Joseph Cox, a journalist for Motherboard, which is the science and technology part of Vice. I cover hacking, the dark web, cybercrime. So when a hacker breaches a website, they'll come to me and say, hey, check this out. I'll go, that's pretty cool. And then I'll verify it, and then tell the company, and then they'll be really upset.
I'm Carly Jade. I am an ethnographer and a cultural researcher at the Future Laboratory, a trends forecasting agency over in Shoreditch. I love culture, people, fly the flag for humans and youth, and I have a long name, and that's it.
Yeah, longer than mine.
Longer than yours.
Beat me. I'm Sian. I'm Chief Marketing Officer at Secret Escapes. If you don't get our emails, you will soon. I've been mainly working...
It's not true.
Exactly, you sold all the data.
Let me get my beer.
Mainly worked in digital internet businesses, so eBay, ASOS, The Guardian, in marketing and product. I like video games, I like home automation, home entertainment, and I like piracy, not just because it's interesting about how piracy affects like digital rights and distribution.
So we've got about, thank you very much. We've got about 20 minutes, so I'm going to try and keep things moving quite quickly. I'm not going to do the thing at the end where we go, has anyone got any questions, and no one puts their hand up. But if you have got a question as we're talking, stick your hand up and I'll try and look past the bright light above my head and find you. Or just shout. So Werner, wonderful Werner in his film, kind of stopped short of kind of making any judgments or predictions really about the internet, and the guy himself says in the middle of the film, anyone who makes predictions about where the internet's going is stupid and shouldn't be listened to. So having said that, I just want to talk a bit about where we think the web is going, just really broadly. Like, should we be optimistic about the future of the web, or should we be pessimistic about the future of the web? I'm going to start with the kind of ugly, annoying, depressing side of it. And because this film was made before the Trump era, let's call it. Can I call it that? And kind of the themes of hacking and trolling and fake news and all that kind of stuff has really just come massively to the surface in the past few months. And that kind of hacking thing, the kind of old Putin, and the fact that now we've gone from poor Kevin Mitnick in his bedroom whistling down the phone to things like loosely kind of federated organizations like Anonymous, to basically entire states now, global states, affecting the outcome of the US election. Is that something that's just going to get worse and worse and worse? Is that something we should be paranoid and scared of, or is this just kind of
Yeah, I mean, in a hacking and like security sort of perspective, it's definitely going to get a lot worse before it gets better. I mean, as is kind of mentioned in the film, the internet was never made with security in mind. We kind of just made all these protocols that we could talk, and it was never really about encryption or authentication, and we're only really worrying about that now. I mean, the biggest case recently didn't come, biggest in probably physical or noticeable impact was, it didn't come from a nation state, it didn't really come from an organized criminal group. It was a bunch of 20-year-olds who were hacking each other's Minecraft servers, and then they decided to make the world's most powerful botnet, which briefly took Twitter and other websites offline, and that's some 20-year-olds in their bedroom. I mean... And
did they have like malicious intent, or were they just pissing about? That's what I'm, because obviously Putin, he's not just pissing about on Minecraft.
Sure.
But these 20-year-olds.
You don't know that.
Oh, well, he might be a big Minecraft fan. But do you see what I mean? It's like, how quickly is that, I guess?
So they started relatively innocent, just attacking each other's servers, that sort of thing, and then they started attacking these IP cameras, internet-connected cameras, that because, again, the internet was never made with security in mind, you could just log in, there was no password, whatever, and building these very large botnets and taking that down. And then, of course, that moved into malicious intent as well. But yeah, I mean, if you're talking about the disinformation campaigns and that sort of thing, those Russian, particularly the Russian campaigns, aren't going to go away just because Trump got elected. I mean, hours after the election, Russian hackers were breaking into American NGOs within hours. I mean, they're not going to stop.
I think there's something in the news today about the people at the White House and the getting hacked. So I just kind of
yeah,
saw the
using
headlines.
personal email addresses, that sort of thing. The head of cybersecurity in the US administration has a terrible website that's just full of vulnerabilities, so the absolute worst person for the job. But yeah, it's going to keep getting worse, unfortunately.
Why are we still making technologies with these vulnerabilities? Because it's like last year, one of the big things that we talked about, you talked about the botnet stuff. Amazon Echo was kind of hit the headlines as being, well, basically anything that was on the Internet of Things was just, there was zero protection for this stuff. The Internet of Things is just wide open. Mm-hmm. That's relatively new technology. It's brand new technology, and yet no one's thought to maybe, put a padlock on it.
We haven't learned at all. Yeah, Internet of Things, IP cameras, Amazon Echo, whatever it may be. It's almost in the same way in the film they were talking about the internet, and you might have another network on top, maybe the blockchain or something else. In exactly the same way we have that internet, and now we're just putting a load of fucking fridges on top, which are completely insecure.
But they can fall in love. So,
Yeah, I can't wait for that. Yeah.
Can they?
Well,
Can they?
No, yeah.
I'd love a fridge that would fall in. I mean, I'd have another fridge that did its job. But
I think what's interesting for me, especially for young people, there were hardly any young people in this, which was quite alarming. It was all
dudes.
old
all of
fogies,
you've done
right?
a lot of acid.
Obviously.
Damage the skin.
And so I've obviously worked on a bunch of projects, with the key big players in media, broadcasting, tech, focusing on the Gen Viz, the Gen Z, digital natives. And obviously, without breaking any of those NDAs, what was fascinating for me was listening to 13-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 15-year-olds talking at lengths of how they want to play and cheat and control the system, control authority, who's playing who. And I think with all this fake news and post-truth politics, many of them spoke of being more maverick and stepping up to the plate of taking that role of being closer to this notion of truth, maybe. So it's no surprise that the citizen journalist is obviously, has more of a significant role. Movements like Black Lives Matter, where that obviously came more to the fore. And just as a quick anecdote of this 18-year-old kid that I interviewed in Pittsburgh. And I said, hi, how are you? The usual chit chat. And he said, yeah, I'm right. It's just before the voting, I've got a fucking vote to think about. It's what first vote it is to walk into. And I have to look at it and look at my options and think, well, what's the best way to die? Is it to drown or to burn, and who's what, given all of the information that, we're exposed to? And then what he followed up with was really interesting. He said, look, the reality is this. We have to say, fuck the fake news, the fake rulers. Would Trump even be here with all of this crap, force-fed to us? But we being young people, we teens, we tweens, we need to be smarter about how we communicate with each other, and how we expose, find new ways of exposing some kind of truth. So I think, obviously, it's, there were no young people here. So obviously,
there's no one to teach the young people how to protect themselves, so because they're all old white people.
But it's how they're controlling, how they're kind of using these systems for their own ends, for that control and that authority, which we didn't see here.
No.
There was none of that there.
But something like fake news has always existed,
Of
right?
course.
Like Snopes.com has been around for 18 years. Everyone got chain mails about forward. Microsoft will give cash back if you forward emails. I think it's just that the infrastructure has better distribution, i.e. Facebook, and more monetization. Like, you can make money from distributing this stuff.
I think that's so just kind of moving on to the other kind of Trump thing that's kind of come out recently, the idea of trolling, and this very binary kind of social media that we have these now, and it's just happened really. It's really just escalated, I think, in the past couple of years, where you're either for something or against something. If you go on social media and have that opinion, then there are very big dividing lines now, and the kind of emergence of the alt-right and how that, and that's come out of, so that's been fueled by, social media platforms.
Sometimes you blame Facebook's algorithm, right? Like in terms of self-serving.
Yeah, and again, with
people's
fake news, you can say that, but
not fake news, but any viewpoint, right?
are these behaviours, and bubbles, we've got to say it eventually, and things like that, and echo chambers, but these are just human behaviour, old human behaviours being magnified to a certain extent.
Absolutely.
But to what extent do we magnify it before it becomes a terrible problem? Does that magnification turn into something that's kind of undoable at some point, or is that just scaremongering?
Well, I mean, it's not just. I mean,
No.
Yeah, no.
I mean, it's not just the amplification, or as you say, like the magnification, right? I think there are some things on the internet that people just would not do if they didn't have the veil of anonymity and they could get away with it, right? I mean, I don't need to go into like the really disgusting stuff that some people do in the trolls, and I mean, they didn't mention some of the things in that film, but I think there is qualitatively something else, even though it might be not that drastic, as you say, it's still human behaviour. People do change when they can get away with it, when they have the Tor anonymity network and they could go on a forum and they just look at
when the President
pictures
of the United States is doing that as well.
Yeah, he's the best troll.
Best troll.
Yeah.
But that becomes then learned behaviour, not fringe behaviour.
Yeah.
And is that, what, and then you get entire political movements that come out of that, those very binary positions. And I think, that's now, and then you're kind of, that's then, I guess what used to happen is like the political landscape would affect what was talked about on social media, and now it's the reverse. That's the social platforms are affecting the political landscape.
But I think they touched upon that difference between fully identity connected, i.e. like Facebook almost is, and fully anonymous, which is basically what Twitter is, and everyone's an egg. And like you can just see the spectrum of conversation. And I know Facebook in itself creates these sort of ecosystems of binary thought, but Twitter's just like a shit show compared to Facebook.
Very quickly, Joseph, you're a journalist. Your industry is going to die because of fake news.
Yep.
Discuss.
On this, I try to be a bit more optimistic. I mean,
You should.
I finally
you have to be.
I bought my New York Times and my Washington Post subscription. I feel like we should fund the journalism that you want. I am more optimistic in that now that we have the internet, we don't have to rely obviously on print, and then here's a 400-word article, believe it. Recently, the other week, we obtained 2,000 pages of documents about police spending, so we just put them all online. And I think that is how, hopefully, and it's not going to be easy obviously, but hopefully you'll be able to convince more people with this transparency, kind of almost taking the good stuff of WikiLeaks and then applying it more to traditional media.
Good stuff of WikiLeaks. Scary we have to say that now.
Yeah.
You have to.
Not the weaponization of it, but I'm more optimistic about that. But as you say, I mean, it's going to be hard, definitely.
So AI, moving on, Werner covered kind of AI and robotics and things like that a little bit, I guess. And I think you've got robots now which are beating Go world champions at Go, and you've got an Alexa, an Echo sat in the corner, or a Google Home sat in the corner of your kitchen, telling you what the weather's going to be and playing Radio 4 for you. I've just showed my age there, and my middle class privilege. But that's all very cute, but that's not, the computer that's winning at Go doesn't know that it's not going to go and celebrate down the pub. It doesn't have consciousness that it's going to do that. And they kind of cover this a little bit in the film, that we are this far away, and it doesn't seem like there's not going to be any JFK moment where someone stands up and goes, okay, right, now we're going to create consciousness. We've got 2 years, let's go. Because there's just this huge gap between that thing. So, where does... Go on.
That point where the guy says, when the car makes a mistake, it will speak to other cars. It will never, it responds far quicker than humans do. It will tell other cars about the mistake, and even unborn cars will, know about this. So I couldn't help but chuckle at this. And, I had the vision of these cars just hanging out, and
there's a lot of just dead people as well, which are mistakes.
Just giving a heads up on what not to do. The robot dreaming about the places that it hasn't yet been to, or does the robot need to fall in love? And these are very human values and behaviours.
Is that the goal?
It's exactly.
When did that become the goal?
Exactly. And it's obviously at the core of the challenge, with the integrity of AI. And I think that, I agree that we are moving towards a new dimension of, morality. What does it even mean to be human? The rise of AI science, robots replacing humans from the really macro level right through to, senior boards being wiped out with robots. And this notion of humanness coming more to the fore, and maybe even becoming more of a kind of hyper luxury in some ways, people putting top dollar down just to, have those personal services which are rooted in human interaction. And it's a shift towards more of a desire or an escapism from being more human. And I think that's quite an interesting shift.
Something like, as you get doer robots taking away jobs, that opens up like, what do humans do when jobs disappear, and when Uber drivers are actually autonomous cars doing ledgers into the blockchain and earning money for themselves. So I went to an event at the Welcome Centre where the dude who's investigating the cortex, the bit at the front, the foldy bit, that's the technical term.
Hit the limit of your brain knowledge.
Exactly. But he said, like, in animals, you can cut it out and nothing happens. But you cut out a human, they turn into a vegetable. And they don't know why. And they said, he's like, there's no comparison between a room full of GPUs, which are really fast, and the fact your brain is goop and analog and electromagnetic chemicals. Like, there is no like the fact that DeepMind was saying, we'll get to general AI at rat level, in our lifetime. And this guy's like, I don't even know how the brain works. Like, how can you even think this is possible?
You can't model something which you don't understand in the first place. Yeah. I think like you kind of talked a bit about that, like the post-industrial world where robots are all going to do our job, and I think there's that. You look at like the culture in Japan where they kind of the kids all grew up on that kind of Astro Boy culture, and that was the nirvana, that was the utopia of aiming towards that, and they've kind of almost kind of created this weird kind of relationship with that fantasy, whereas in the West we'd never had that, and we've always had this almost paranoia of the robots taking all our jobs. I don't think we're that close to the robots taking. I mean, they're saying in our lifetime, like X percentage of robots are going to take over our jobs and stuff. But when does that become? Where's the moral kind of consciousness at the centre of all that? And when do we want to kind of aim for that? And also, when that becomes true, if the robots are in control, what's the hacking paranoia doing then? Because then.
I mean, just about AI and hacking, it's maybe a sign of things to come. Is this one NSA program that didn't really get any coverage, called Monster Mind, which...
Why do they always call them such good names?
Yeah, they're really, really bad at naming stuff. But it autonomously detects when the US is being attacked, and you can tell where it's coming from. But the idea is that it will see where it's coming from and automatically respond. Which is really worrying when you think about cyber attack attribution, and hey, you could be in North Korea, you hack a server in Iran, you proxy your attack through there, and then the NSA system is going to hit back into Iran. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you would presume that this system, being the NSA, is accounted for that, but the idea of obviously this doesn't just apply to like cyber warfare, but maybe also like to drones, and that in Yemen, Somalia, whatever it may be. The idea of giving or like autonomous weapons, cyber weapons or physical weapons, just letting them do their thing. I think that's really, and that's not even AI, that's more just machine learning and
algorithms.
Yeah, exactly. But we're going to get to that first before then we...
What's the level that we want AI to kind of stop at, where we think, oh, that's good, that's comfortable, I don't care about that. Does that exist? Is there a version of
when
that?
it doesn't take my job. And then
just below journalists.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they've already done that. So, yeah.
So there's a lot. I mean, you got Elon Musk in that film, and you got he's talking about a lot of people who kind of created the internet and are kind of dealing with the internet. There's not a lot of people who are kind of creating the next level of the web and technology and things like that. From your perspective, I just want to get a view on who do you think is going to kind of steer the next 20 years of what we think of the web is going to be? Who's going to be like the company or the brand, or like the Facebook or the Amazon or the Google or the Bezos or the Zuckerberg or the Putin? Who's going to be the kind of central steering figure of the next 20 years of the web? What do you think?
I can go.
Go for it.
I mean, it's kind of what I mentioned earlier, that insecurity, innovation only happens when like shit hits the fan. So we've got ransomware at the moment, which is attacking hospitals, which locks down all the files in the hospital. Operations have to be cancelled, appointments have to be cancelled, people go ill. When someone dies from a ransomware attack, that's when people are going to start taking it seriously. So it's cyber criminals who are going to be really pushing the adoption of more secure practices.
How
And there'll be
likely would it
kids.
be for
Yeah,
someone like
kids.
that
10-year-olds,
to like
13-year-olds.
hold an entire, or because I know 'cause just last year, like an entire state lost its power or something around that botnet thing, and that's probably the
there was
Daily
a-
Mail version of that
A
story.
Ukrainian, likely Russian cyber attack on Ukraine cut power in large parts of the country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how long before that becomes like a tool within that you can hold an entire state to ransom?
I don't know about an entire state because, I mean, all the different systems aren't going to necessarily be connected, but like about the power outage, so that Ukraine one happened in 2015, there was another one in 2016. Basically, people are poking infrastructure and they're testing it. I mean, this isn't necessarily for war right now, but they are testing the limits of, hey, if we put a little bit of malware in this power plant, yeah, we can shut the power down. Let's put that there, leave it there, and we'll come back to it later.
But so, are you saying that if that happens, then the people doing that are basically going to be steering the next 20 years, or the people who are going to be responding to that shit hitting the fan are going to steer the next 20 years?
I guess the impetus comes from the people doing the hacking,
Yeah.
but I think they will be the driving force in making more secure products, protocols.
Just as people were walking in today, we had the Vice compilation of Donald Trump talking about the internet.
Cybers.
The cybers, how big cyber is and how dangerous cyber is, and 400-pound hackers in their bedroom. And he's his way of dealing with that is to put up a wall around cyber.
The biggest firewall ever.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Make Mexico
Wall,
pay
yeah.
for the wall,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
firewall.
yeah.
But I mean, that's what's scary. We're in a position at the moment where you've got these forces, these people who've got this power against these states, and the states themselves are much more reactionary than they were just 10 years ago to all this stuff. There's not going to be a positive outcome of what you're talking about.
No.
That was a question. I was really going to say you were going to. No, actually, there is.
No, it's a tire fire.
I thought I was going to ask this question. You'd be like, Amazon have got supermarkets where you don't have to pay.
But I think it's kind of terrifying that you've got these like big titans like Facebook for communication, Google for knowledge, Amazon for e-commerce, which will just consolidate that position over time, all being led by personalities effectively. And their goal to create wealth for themselves and redistribute that philanthropically, hopefully, like either I was saying a good billionaire or evil billionaire, at the same time as guiding all consumption, knowledge, and communication. It'd be interesting to see what Zuckerberg's predecessor, his deputy, will be doing in 10 years' time when he gets into Musk's spaceship.
It's weird that no one's talking about Apple anymore. Apple just doesn't come up. If we had this conversation 5 years ago,
Yeah.
everyone would be
It's just not
saying.
gonna
Like
be
Microsoft
relevant,
are
are
building
they?
hardware for designers, and Apple are doing deals with IBM to do business installations. Like the world is bizarre with those two.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any of them in 20 years will necessarily be relevant. And I think, again,
Like
the
people like
hacking,
Facebook, Amazon.
Google, Amazon.
Know where
even.
you are.
Will they be relevant in 20 years' time? Can we give an answer on that? Maybe not.
You can't see that company disappearing. Like the scale of Facebook,
But in terms of being the
200
force,
billion.
the power force of driving it.
If you're a $200 billion
Remember
company,
MySpace?
you can't. But they were never that.
When? When was that?
Yeah, I know.
But that was only 10. We're talking about hundreds, some of the biggest market cap business in the world just disappearing in 20 years. That hasn't happened to Exxon or GE, who have been around 50, 70 years. And I don't know.
But Exxon and GE are doing basically what they were doing 20 years ago. They're
Yeah.
still doing it now. Facebook is never going to stop moving.
Yeah.
And so they've got more opportunity to mess up than someone,
true.
But also they've got more opportunity to influence the future of what our society than those people did.
And it's scary how much is guided by one person in each of those. Well, Google less so these days, but.
Yeah. Well, I read something the other day which is basically 2020 presidential election. Mark Zuckerberg might be on that list. Is that terrifying or is that a good thing?
I was saying I prefer Sheryl Sandberg because she looks just like what's her face from Veep. So it'll be perfect. She can swear as much. It'd be great. But yeah, no, he's half robot, half he would be a bizarre choice for president. He's artificially altruistic.
Given Jeff Bezos, last question, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, or Sergey Brin, which one for the next president of the United States? There's no woman in there, isn't there?
No, it says everything, doesn't it? What does that say?
If you had to.
I'd go with Zuck. Yep.
You'd go with Zuck, really?
Yeah. Out of those.
Vice says Facebook for president.
I'm here representing myself and my opinion. There's no way it represents my employer. Thanks, right, okay.
I'd probably
Why would you go for Zuck? Sorry, I've got to why?
Go.
It's just out of those.
Right,
I think I'd be happy with anything right about now.
Okay. Carl J?
Elon Musk. Just
He came across
that
as a
pause
But he's
was
like
everything
that.
for me.
Like, his keynotes are all like that. He's the most awkward, weird man.
But it feels a little bit more human in a weird way, so I can run with that for sure.
Who's left? Do I have to go with? I'll go with Bezos, just because he looks evil.
you want evil?
Yeah, you want evil
less
billionaire.
evil than Donald Trump.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. Has anyone got any burning questions or comments they want to say before we say goodbye to this lot? Because they've got to go and get trains back to places. Because if not, we'll say thank you very much. Thank you very much, guys. Really appreciate it. Before you all disappear into the night, we are at nonfictionaddiction.co.uk. We have a newsletter which goes out every 2 weeks with lots of links to cool stuff. Hopefully doing another event maybe in the spring sometime. So if you want to subscribe and have a look at that. Thank you again to all the extras. Thank you very, very much. And we'll see you all at the next event. Thank you very much.